Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Ohio Business Spotlight, powered by Greg Fay Insurance. If you haven't talked to Greg Fay today, call him for your best rates, especially with those new student drivers. I can speak from personal testimony. Greg saved me a lot of money because my boys are expensive. Greg, tell everybody who's on the podcast.
Boy, oh boy, our guest list just gets better and better, Tony. We've had some good ones, but I've really looked forward to this one. And as soon as I extended the invite, Mayor Brooks Compton immediately jumped on it, and him and I started syncing up our calendars. So I was excited. Today we have the mayor of Centerville, Ohio, Brooks Compton, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. And the reason we were so excited because, we do this trying to promote local business. And you are not going to find a government official that has his finger on the pulse more of local business than Mayor Compton. So really excited. He's called home Centerville since 1979, and he's been deeply involved in local government for over 40 years. First, a city council member beginning in 1984, and he's been sitting mayor since 2016. He's a partner at the Kettering law firm of Murr, Compton, Claypool, and Macbeth, where he's practiced law for 4 decades, to run parallel with his public service. And he also, well, during his tenure at the law firm, he focuses on estate planning, real estate, and civil litigation. He's known for his commitment to building strong community partnerships, and that is Tony's heartbeat right there. That's what he brings to this love of the community, and that's what we bring out on all of our guests. You have put together projects with the cities, the schools, the parks, the township. You bring a wealth of experience and a genuine love for Centerville. It's obvious in everything that you do. Sir, we welcome you today to our podcast.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. And I think when you said the level of guest was increasing, I'd say that's probably open to dispute. But I very much appreciate the invitation. Always like to have a chance to talk about what's going on in the city of Centerville and our community, which all of us are very much love and love being a part of.
Mm. Now, Mayor Compton, you actually own two businesses. You're a part of Mood Media and then the law firm, and you've been in civil service for so many years. One of the things that I hear from business owners a lot is they don't feel like they have the capacity to get into additional like volunteer or civil opportunities, ways to serve their community at a larger level. Um, when did you decide that you felt like you had a calling inside of you to serve the community in addition to running these businesses?
Well, my family was very much involved in community service. My father was a council member in the city of Kettering when they became a city. And my mother, and he was on a council for several years until my sister was born. And then he felt just too busy with three kids. But my mother was very active politically. She campaigned in events or took part in campaign events and worked at booths for candidates and things of that sort. So over the years, it just was something that we talked a lot about at home and are involved in my mom and dad's involvement in community service. My dad was what was now called MMRD, but was the board for disabilities, mental retardation. Don't call it that now, but he was on that board for a number of years. And my mom's been a volunteer. My mother was a volunteer for Cancer Society here in the Dayton area. And so how I became involved in the city of Centerville was we had moved back to town in '79. Ruth and I were married at that time, and we moved and we lived in Revere Village. And we were coming back from something on a Monday or Tuesday night. I don't remember the night exactly, but the place over the city building was completely filled with parking. And I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun. I don't know what's going on over there. Well, I walked on over, and there was a zoning issue at that time that was being discussed, and it was very interesting. And like the personalities that were sitting on the council at that time, I thought, oh, I'd be interested to become involved in that and participate in that. So Shortly after that, I volunteered. They had an open position on the Board of Architectural Review, which was very active in the Architectural Preservation District, now we know as Uptown. So volunteered, was selected to serve on that board, and served on that board for a couple of years, several years before I was elected to council in '83. And then served as Mayor Hines was elected, Shirley Hines was elected in '83. Served with her for 12 years, ran for mayor against Sally Beals. I was defeated and lost to Sally in '95, and then served 2 more years on council, and then was asked to come back in 2003 when Mark Kingsley was elected as mayor, and served on member of council since then. But that's how I became involved. It's a little bit more answer to the question, but obviously becoming involved, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really interesting to see the community as it progressed over the years since when we moved here to where the community is now. So I've enjoyed it very much. Worked with good people.
Mhm. You are responsible for integration with so many different moving pieces, from schools to all things governmental, whether it has to deal with the parks or whether it has to do with all of the service arms of government. But then you also have to be connected to businesses, and that seems like that would be difficult to do because there's probably a different hat kind of sort of to wear in dependent upon who you're speaking with. How have you been able to juggle that? I would consider successfully. Nobody, it's never the case where everybody agrees with everything that everybody does, whether it's business, government, or education or anything. But it seems as if you've been able to keep all of those plates spinning and maintain relationships that are integrated in all of those moving pieces. What do you think the key to that has been, sir?
Well, I think that the key is one, I am not the only one spinning those plates. There are 7 council members, of which I'm one. We have a tremendous city staff that works. As you know, we have a city manager, Wayne Davis, who's done a tremendous job with really well uh, positioned staff that works extremely well together. And we as a council work very well together. And we have a lot of people are probably not aware, but all the governmental entities, the parks, the townships, the cities, the libraries, the township, and the school board, we all get together once every quarter and have a meeting where we go over things that are impacting us and making those substantive meeting to discuss issues. Property tax is always an issue, and levies that are coming up, or difficulties that we're having in certain areas. But with respect to the business aspect of that, when Wayne came on board and we had an opportunity to examine where the city was. We'd had a longtime city manager with Greg Horn who did a really good job, and he was retiring. But it gave us an opportunity to look where we were as a community, as in a council and as a staff, as to how were we approaching different aspects of our community. And one of the major aspects was the business community, that we felt that Centerville was perceived as a difficult entity to work with by the business community. So when we had a chance to sit back and evaluate what are the goals for the city as we move forward with the new city manager, one of those was to establish strong relationships with the business community and make sure that we hear what their concerns are regarding permitting, regarding applications that come in front of them for whatever it might be, and a liquor license, it might be a building permit, it might be having an entertainment activity, something to that effect, that we needed to be responsive to that rather than being kind of a barrier to get past. And as we've said, when Wayne came on board, council wanted Wayne to be in a position where you work to find yes, as opposed to how do we say no and then work from there. But you work from the idea that we're going to get to a point where the businesses we can work to, if it's reasonable, accomplish what they'd like to get accomplished without making it so difficult for them to work with the city. And so we have the CCIC, which is Centerville City Improvement Corporation, which provides grants to businesses and homeowners within the community that are wanting to advance their particular project. You've seen that in Uptown. There's been a lot of grants awarded with respect to improving the exterior of a building, improving the interior of a building that is business related. That's been very successful. We have the property reinvestment improvement, property improvement reimbursement grant, that if there's a new business coming to the city of Centerville and they're bringing new jobs, then we work with them to provide an improvement from a tax-based perspective, but also to allow them to have some ability to work with less of a commitment to the city from a tax standpoint for at least a few years. If they make the commitment to add more business, or I'm sorry, add more taxpayers to the, or employees to the city of Centerville. So that's one way, but it basically, the council working with staff really felt it was extremely important to have a strong working relationship with the businesses, because we have over 700 individual businesses in the city of Centerville. As you know, we have some very large employers and some very small employers, and all of them are entitled to equal interest by the city of providing what they need to get done. And so we felt that that was we wanted to make sure that was a strong change in direction to meet the businesses, not to have them have to come to us for everything.
One of the things that's interesting about the roles that you play, both as an entrepreneur in the two businesses you own and in your role kind of leading and guiding the council, is it's so much about vision. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is your systematic approach to seeing the entire picture. Having worked with you for a number of years on different things, I've seen your approach, and it's very methodical. It's very organized. I always appreciate how faithful you are to agendas and those kind of things. So let me ask you this. When you think about vision and all the roles that you play, how do you keep that well fresh inside of yourself? How do you avoid the burnout that sometimes happens with entrepreneurs?
Well, I think one thing the city has established, I think every successful business is, as you both probably know, you need a plan when you come in every day, and you need a strategic plan that you're working through on a day-to-day basis. If you walk in and you just say, well, see what the heck I have to do today, you're probably not going to get anything done, because events are going to overwhelm of the day are going to overwhelm you as far as calls and things like that that kind of head you off in a different direction. But if you have a strategic plan, or a plan that you're working from, not necessarily a day-to-day plan, but at least a plan that leads you forward to what your objective is with that specific goal, then your days get planned around, well, we're moving towards that objective all the time. And you're not just waking up and saying, well, I wonder what happens today. That doesn't work very well. I don't think it's very productive. I think it leads to a lot of wasted time and looking over at the computer and say, what's the news today, and that type of thing. But it seems to me the businesses that have come to the city of Centerville and asked for, or to work with the city, they are organized businesses for the most part and have a plan in place. And that's consistent with the city of Centerville, and our business here is that we have a plan how we are going to approach moving forward. And then obviously there's some adjustments that take place as the plan moves forward. There's always changes that take place, but you always have something that you're working towards. And I think that's very important. And the city has the same approach from a strategic plan. We felt that it was very important back in 2017 that the city established a strategic plan that the staff could work from, the city manager could work from, that would be consistent with the visions that the city council had with the direction of the city. And I think that applies to the businesses that we're all involved in, is that we have kind of an idea of what we want things to do, but we really need to sit down and kind of map it out as to how we get that accomplished. And there are steps along the way to get that accomplished. And that's, I think, what we look for. You mentioned agendas, Tony, as far as our council agenda, we review our agenda before the meeting. We go through it as a council to see if there's any problems that someone may have with the agenda. But we also, the city manager and I, along with our clerk of council, we will review the agenda, go through every item on the agenda several days in advance to try to head off any potential problem I don't want to say a problem, but something that might create an issue during the course of our meeting. And if there's something that I need to include in the agenda or council needs to include in the agenda, that it gets included at a time that staff has an opportunity to prepare for, our clerk of council and our legal staff look at it. I think that's consistent with the businesses that we run. I know, Greg, I see so much that you do, and Tony, that if you didn't have a plan for the day, then you guys would be walking around figuring out what the heck am I going to do today, and there wouldn't be a business on either one of your parts. So that seems to me that is the most important thing. I wish I would have learned this a lot earlier, as far as I'm late to the concept of working from a strategic plan. I wish I would have learned that back right after I graduated from law school, and not necessarily after heavy involvement with outside businesses and the city. But it's been good. And I think the city works very well because of that, and our businesses do too.
You talked about adjustments, and I love your transparency and talking about, things that you wish you would have learned earlier. Tony and I have business owners on here, and we're up to some 60 different episodes. And our audience has kind of asked us continually, when they see a successful face or a business that they recognize, and they think, wow, nothing goes wrong with them. I mean, they're not, they don't experience what I experience. So a lot of times Tony and I hear from our audience, tell me something that was a curveball, something that was unanticipated, something that jumped out of the bushes where an adjustment had to be made. And I want to learn where somebody else already bumped their head, so that I don't have to bump my head. I don't have to recreate the wheel. So if you're comfortable, if you could maybe take us through a scenario where, and sir, please feel free to use either of your career or your time in public office, where you had to make an adjustment. And I love that word right there, because that's exactly what it is. It's an adjustment. Something that threw you a curveball where you felt you didn't immediately have the solution. You had to figure it out. Something that might help an entrepreneur out there that's listening right now.
Sure. But I would go back to early in our law practice career. We've had a long established firm, and my partners have been with the same firm the whole time. And at one time, there was interest from another firm to merge and get together. And that's, I think sometimes you kind of take your eye off the ball at that point when you're kind of heading one direction, and I think you have a capacity. I refer to it as one of my partners says it's a tipping point. You think, oh no, you'll never do that. You'll never do that. And then all of a sudden that opportunity presents itself in a fashion you think, gosh, that would really be great. You kind of tip over the other way and you think, well, yeah, that's something I really want to look at. And so you're heading that direction for a while. And then all of a sudden that doesn't pan out, and that doesn't. So all of a sudden you've reached that stage where you think this would be a good idea, and you have to go back. You have to kind of recreate and reestablish where you were before, with a new understanding that where you thought you might be going is no longer there. And that, so you basically are looking at your whole plan all over again. What you thought might be 10 or 12 people is now 5 or 6 people. And you're looking at that completely differently than what you were before. And that was an adjustment that was, for some of us, was a harder adjustment than others. We were thinking along that line, thought it would be terrific, and it didn't come to pass. So we had to kind of reset ourselves, and we did, and it worked out, maintained a very good relationship with the other group over the years. And as all of us got kind of settled down on that and got back to doing what we thought was a good model for our legal practice, and continued it and got it back on track. And but I would think that from a business standpoint, that the legal business is a little bit different. But from a business standpoint, I think it's difficult at times to immediately stop a direction that you thought you were heading. You really need to, at some point in time, go say, this isn't going to come to pass. we're going to have to start back to where we were before and redefine the objectives that we have. And I think that's hard to do. But if you don't, and you just kind of wander along in that capacity, you're never going to move forward with what you had before and getting that refocused again towards the business. But I might add, with respect to the city, I think one of the things that, from the standpoint of the city, which all of us, I think we all get involved in our own organizations at a time we think this place is running great. And then you find out that other people don't think it's running great, and that you hear from the community. I think several of us were surprised in city council to hear, well, we don't think it's a very good place to do business, Centerville. And I'm thinking, man, this is the best community in the world. How can somebody not want to do business here? But that caused us to really look at it and say, are we a good place to do business? And that caused us to really refocus and really work towards a strategic plan, which we did not have in place before. And once we became aware, I think became more aware of what we thought was the business community's idea that, gosh, you're kind of hard to work with and maybe really hard to work with. We needed to step back, adjust how we were moving forward, and really look at how we address the business community. And in turn, that affects the whole community. If businesses are not prosperous in your community, and that doesn't draw the line just between Centerville and Washington Township or Centerville and Kettering. The business community in this entire area has to be successful. And if they're successful in Kettering, Centerville is going to be a winner because of that. If Kettering's a winner when there's a successful business in Centerville, we tend to be focused on our own, but I think we recognize that when we're all doing better, as treating our businesses better, the whole community is going to be better. We're going to be a beneficiary of that. But that was a significant adjustment or significant process of saying, I think we're doing something wrong here. We need to look at that and start from square one. Not criticism of anyone, just a recognition that there was something that needed to be done significantly better.
You know, one of the things that's interesting about the work that you do is the vast array of stakeholders, you know, and so when I say stakeholders, it's you've got your public service employees, you've got obviously your voters who live in the place, you've got and it's just like that for most entrepreneurs. They've got employees, they've got customers, partners, that sort of thing. How do you manage the voices of all the stakeholders, all who are equally important, maybe not all the same strategic, but all equally important and valuable? And I know how much you care about people. How do you manage the voices of the stakeholders?
From, I think, any business, and the city included in this, is it's very important that you listen attentively to what they have to say and work that into the equation of ultimately what the objective is of a particular project. That oftentimes there's neighborhood impact, and it's easy when you're not in that neighborhood to look past that and say, oh, okay, well, that looks like a good idea. Well, the neighbors are impacted by that, and those that are in that direct neighborhood, they want to have input into that, and that's very important that we hear their input to make for a successful project. You don't want to just implement something and say, well, this is the way it's going to be, whether you like it or not. The neighbors have a say in that, and the neighborhood has a say in that. And that's the same with all of the stakeholders that come forward. When the city does something that will impact the schools, or the schools impact something that will impact the city or the township or the parks, we need to listen to what their concerns are about that particular project or improvement or road work or whatever the case might be, and make sure that their concerns are incorporated into the objective of that particular plan or project. And that runs all the way from a simple neighborhood project to a shared pathway or a bikeway or involvement with the parks or the schools, is that we all work together towards the improvement of the community. But it's extremely important that the concerns they have are addressed in the projects that we have. I think the community is doing a very good job of dealing and working well with each other at this point. I think that's been really improved over the course of the last probably 5, 6, 7 years. And we've worked very hard at that, and all the other entities have too. The relationship that we have with the township and the parks and the schools and libraries is good. We're very pleased with that. They work hard and we work hard to try to get all of us working together on the same direction. I think that's pretty evident that we are working the same direction at this point. But it's very important. I would say the most important thing is make sure you're listening to what people are telling you. And that applies in the business world. They're going to tell you that they don't like your product and or the way you're producing your product. And you'll know that right away because they're not coming back.
Yeah, that's so good.
So business owners out there right now, let's say, let me play devil's advocate for a minute, and let's say that there's a business owner out there that still thinks that either there is, number one, a way to improve, or number two, not big scope, improve what the city does, but as a business owner, I need the city to do something for me that I do not feel like they're doing right now. Create a pathway for me. And I know we're winding up here, but create a pathway for the business owner, entrepreneur that's listening to us right now. The message you would give them if they have a big scale idea, or if they just are frustrated, they're experiencing a pain point right now with the city, give them a pathway right here, right now, for them to embark on to kind of get their idea heard, number one, or their problem solved. What would that pathway be, sir?
Well, there's really the city council is one pathway directly. If there's an issue that comes up of concern or an idea, and all the city council members are very receptive to hearing those ideas and making sure those ideas get passed on. We have within a development department, our development director is Eric Collins, and he's one that has had a lifetime of experience dealing with businesses. That's his main focus for the city of Centerville, is working with businesses, bring businesses into our community, and assisting them in the way that they operate to improve them if they need improve, or help them along their way to getting the necessary licensing permits, ideas that they have incorporated into a particular plan or development. That, yes, that's one way directly to get through, would be to Eric Collins as our development director. He will be an advocate for you, for that business coming into the city. I mean, there are certain things that simply can't be done. As you know, there's certain type of businesses that can't locate because of zoning issues within the city. The city's not going to change a couple of those things. Mm-hmm. Imagine what those might be, but they're not going to change those things. But for a business that wants to locate in the city of Centerville, has an idea of how to do that, either directly contact a council member who will make sure that Eric Collins hears about it, and then Eric will probably take the ball, or contact our city manager. Wayne is extremely amenable to contact or talking with people and making sure that things get directed in the right direction. But as far as that, don't be hesitant to make that contact, because a council member will pursue the idea for an individual that either from a business standpoint or an idea that they might have about better operation of the city. We'll make sure that gets right to the person that can do it, and we'll follow up on it. But strictly from a business standpoint, the best would be either through council, Wayne, or Eric Collins, and they'll get that moved through very effectively.
So good. So good. We're so thankful for your time. Normally, the last question that we ask people is the hardest question, and it's about naming one or two businesses who you think we should have on the podcast. I'm not going to put you on the spot because I know that you know everyone in Centerville, and I would hate to leave someone out and put you on the spot like that. So let me just ask you one last question. It's an advice question. Let's say that you were sitting across from a young entrepreneur, someone who's thinking about starting their brand new business. Maybe they're newly married. Maybe they got some young kids. What's the one piece of advice that you would want to give them that you wish you had when you started?
Well, I think one very good idea, I think, and I wish, as I say this, I wish I had done this when I was younger, was put together a plan of action from the very first idea that you come up. I'd like to do this business. Well, what is my objective in this business? What am I looking to accomplish out of this business? Am I going to open a business that's related to professional services, professional products? What do I want to accomplish out of that? And then I would spend a reasonable amount of time talking with people that are in a similar business to get an idea of what they've encountered during their process of opening their business, if they did, or if they're currently in the business and bought into the business, whatever the case might be. But I would never go into a business without having a plan in place, a strategic plan. And that's something that you're working from every day, because it is so easy to get distracted with what's going on. There's so many things that are pulling you one way or the other. And a new business, if you're not focused on it, I think from the very first day, you'll be pulled away, and you may never get to the point that you feel like you've got a handle on it. Or if you get started on it, you may be stumbling around for years before you kind of get the proper direction. But as I say, I wish I had known that 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And I think it would really be helpful as to how any of us get started. And I would imagine both of you have gone through those trials and tribulations of, gosh, I wish I would have done some things differently
Yes, sir.
along the way. And you could pass that information on to a person who's looking to get in the industry that you're in. And I know from a legal standpoint, and also from our other business, that I know a lot more than I did when I started. And I'd be more than happy to pass on some of the information to those that are just trying to get into that business.
Well, Mayor Compton, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast today. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your heart for serving our community. I know it's a tireless job that requires so much time, and you and your family have sacrificed a great deal to make our city a great place to live. So, on behalf of all Centervillians everywhere, thank you for that, and thank you to Ruth, who was absolutely an amazing human. Your wife, I 10
I
out of
agree.
10 recommend meeting Ruth. She's the best. So,
Well, let me
uh,
let me mention one thing.
yeah,
It's a fun job.
good.
Being the mayor and being part of council is a fun job. And my fellow council members and the community at large and the other entities we work with make it a great job. It is not something, when I go into a council meeting or I go into a meeting with respect to, I don't dread it. I look forward to it. We have a good time in those meetings. We know we feel like we're moving in the right direction. I think the community feels we are. It's fun. And I know people have heard, oh, how do you put up with it? It's a great job. I love it.
Awesome.
It's very
Love it.
rewarding and fun to be part of it.
Well, friends, that's our podcast episode for today. As always, we're forever thankful for you, all the people who listen, who subscribe. If you aren't a subscriber, be sure to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Make sure you don't miss any future episodes. And remember, support your local businesses, as goes the local business, as goes the community. Until next time, on behalf of my partner, Greg, thank you so much for tuning in to the Ohio Business Spotlight.